Welcome to Decentralized News, your 30-minute update on all things crypto economy. I am your host, Piter, joined as always by Aussie. Your time is valuable, so let's jump right in. Today in our post-halving show, the top stories stay in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Then we're going to touch on the macro economy and finish up with a crypto speed run that touches on a bunch of interesting altcoin updates. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research. We are entertainers. The halving didn't bring much volatility with it, but it has been ticking ever so slightly up. And this morning, we're up 2% at a cool 66K per Bitcoin.
Yeah, it wasn't as dramatic as everyone thought it would be. Everyone was so excited and no dramatic price movement, although you could say the big dip before the halving, even if it was a few days before, a week before, was that dramatic move. But maybe it's bringing that uptick back.
People were talking 52K going back down to the 20-week moving average, but didn't seem to go down that far.
Not yet.
We'll see how the future holds. Well, with the halving, stealing the show a little bit was this Ruins protocol. I don't know if you know anything about this or heard
everyone's
about it.
been, some of my DGen friends are talking about it. They've been excited.
Yeah, the degens are, I've heard it referred to as very gloriously, but also I've heard to it as like spam and junk mail and that kind of stuff. But anyway, Ruins is similar to Ordinals, which kind of got big this year, in that it allows people to etch or mint tokens on chain. The main difference between the Ordinals and these Ruins are that Ordinals are non-fungible, so you can't break them up. So each, I think, Satoshi is an Ordinal. But Ruins will function more like meme coins. So the way I imagine it is you can break them up. So there was a bunch of this launched on the Bitcoin halving, like on that block. Now you can buy meme coins. There's a lot of people, influencers more, just talking about 1000x, which kind of made me a little standoffish. I don't know about you, when you first heard about it.
I heard a few people talking about them coming out and how like it's another new fun thing coming to like the Bitcoin network, but I haven't heard a lot of the 1000x.
Bringing that DeFi edge to Bitcoin network.
Exactly. Influencers will always tell you can 1000x. Given how Ordinals did, I understand the excitement, but I never got into Ordinals, and
it's a whole new world. Yeah, there were literally hundreds of Ruin projects that are currently being minted and looking for buyers right now. So if you decide you want to get into it, I was looking at the names. They have names like Dog Go to the Moon Dog, another one called Meme Economics, another one Short the World, and Pepe with Hunkers. Now, I guess the reason they're so long is because right now they have to be 13 or 14 characters, I forget, and it will shorten over time. I'm not sure technically why that's happening, but that has turned some degens off. It's just like, I don't like any of these tickers. They want like shorter.
Yeah, everyone wants a short ticker, but
these ones aren't doing it.
Yeah, it makes sense if it was 13th. If this was programmed into the code like way back when, Friday the 13th, 13th has some meaning in Bitcoin for sure.
Okay. Now, while it is a complete mystery what is going to happen with this new market, basically was birthed because it is operating within the protocol rules, but I don't know. All right, anyway, but one of the things that came from it was this sudden huge spike in fees. And I think actually the first block had 30 or 40 Bitcoin when you mine the block. Now, when you mine a block, you get two things. You get the block reward, which was just cut in half. It went from 6 to 3.125, 6.25. But you also get the transaction fees. And that's usually less than half a Bitcoin, like a Bitcoin.
Yeah, like it almost never compares to what the actual block reward is. It's always...
Yeah, it was like 7x the block or something like that. You know what I mean? It was like a crazy number. And throughout the day, by the end of the day, it was averaging 7 Bitcoin per block, which is just a huge number. I don't think it's kept up at that pace, but there was a boom for the miners.
Oh, yeah. I knew that there would be a rush to get on that first block because it's the first block at post-halving. Like, everyone wants to be either get an ordinal or a rune on that block. Like,
it'll be the most famous block.
Yeah, there's going to be some premium associated with that. But to see it continue, it'll be interesting. Ordinals like really wreaked some havoc on Bitcoin, like on the Bitcoin network for many weeks after they were introduced. So we'll see if runes have that same capacity. or if they will kind of falter off quicker than ordinals did, because ordinals had a good few months.
Yeah, no, we will see. And it gives some fudders some strength to the argument that, oh, how can you have transaction fees like this and expect it to be money? Because like some maxis want to see it as like a form of payment. That's like the final. And that's not possible with this. And it adds some credence to that. But anyway, it's all very brand new. Miners are getting a little bonus. But there's a well-known ordinals collector on X. His name is Leonidas. And he had a quote that I thought summed it up pretty well. He was live streaming the day that it all launched. As everyone is scrambling to figure out what the hell is going on, I just want to take a moment and say it's awesome being here with you. Essentially, it's started a new protocol that just kicked off. So let's see what happens. And I think it's going to be very chaotic, which I think was shown with transaction fees a little bit. But exciting times in the Bitcoin universe.
Very exciting times. And then to go with the launch of Runes, we've got the launch of a new Bitcoin ETF, essentially. A nice spin-off and potentially another reason why we could continue to see some green in the market moving forward. Grayscale, which currently has the spot ETF with the highest fees, has revealed that they are planning a spin-off of the trust, of the fund, called the Bitcoin Mini Trust, which will have much cheaper fees, 0.15, which would be the lowest fees of all of the different ETFs. Right now, the lowest and cheapest ETF is the Franklin Bitcoin ETF, which is at 0.19%. So this is a much lower fee option, and comparatively, it makes it makes it more interesting to potentially remain with Grayscale moving forward. This mini trust was conceived to basically offer GBTC investors a lower fee option that's more competitive and in line with other ETFs. So that's pretty great news. And because the spinoff is considered a non-taxable event, these investors don't have to pay capital gains taxes, which for some early stage GBTC investors is really good news, because they are facing thousands of percents of gains and would face a pretty significant tax bill to switch to another product. This is pretty interesting. And this happens as Grayscale is just still barely holding their lead at 19.6 billion, with their rival BlackRock at 1.75 billion.
Hey, Grayscale is just coming with the extremes. They have the highest and they're like sinking the market, you know what I mean? They're like this black eye on the ETF market for the whole time it's been around, and now they're going to the lowest fee and the whole non-taxable thing. So all these early investors that didn't want to, both maybe were considering, do I want to stay in Grayscale and pay this high fee, or do I want to switch out and pay taxes? They don't have to worry about that. So maybe it just raises the floor of when this is going to stop bleeding, and we can move on from this event that has been the Grayscale bleed.
Exactly. I mean, in my mind, it definitely takes away a lot of that selling pressure. If we look at the selling pressure, it's mainly come from GBTC, and because from what we can tell, investors were moving to cheaper options. If GBTC can do the spin-off and they don't have to have sales and they just they do the spin-off, then we essentially eliminate most, or if not all, of that selling pressure, which will be pretty great.
It also just relieves like a big question mark in the market. What is going on with these ETFs? It takes some of the volatility out of just what is going on over there and what is money coming into the market. So I'm excited to see this come to a close.
Yeah, I think it definitely closes a bit of that chapter on what's going on with ETFs. So I'm very much looking forward to this chapter being closed, and that's just as a new chapter starting to open in the ETF saga, with Hong Kong Bitcoin's ETF stated to start trading by April 30th. So we're April 22nd on the date of recording, but so that's less than a week away. If we think about it, that's pretty nuts. The SFC of Hong Kong has already approved several of the ETFs, and there still isn't an official launch. The date that we've got so far seems to be by April 30th. I think that's pretty good news. There's still some wide range on what level of adoption these ETFs could get. Marcus Thelian, founder of research firm 10x, stated that the trading could start by April 30th, and says that the impact could be as wide as 500 million or all the way up to 25 billion. So that's a pretty wide range. Depends on whether or not there is potential access for mainland Chinese investors. So right now, due to evolving regulations, it's unclear on whether or not mainland Chinese investors will be able to get access to these Hong Kong ETFs. And so in that scenario, it could be just as low as 500 million. But if the Southbound Stock Connect program and other regulations come into play, he could see 25 billion flowing into these ETFs from mainland Chinese investors.
There's a big difference between 500 million and a over 1 trillion market cap and 25 billion. So that's a big difference. The fund also has a unique in-kind redemption feature that could make them competitive globally. So this is what they would call a competitive advantage, something you have that nobody else doesn't. So you can swapping Bitcoin directly for ETF shares. So we'll see if that makes a difference.
Maybe if people want to be able to move those ETFs in that Bitcoin into tax sheltered accounts, that would be pretty interesting to be able to do that for their Bitcoin.
But also this Bitcoin magazine article, I'd never heard of this Southbound Stock Connect program. So this is the fact that there is a possibility that this quote unquote mainland China money could get in. It's intriguing because hearing 500 million is, don't get too excited. It won't be that much. Big difference.
Yeah, very big difference. Another big difference that could be coming in the crypto market is the SEC. It's actually facing some consequences. If you guys have not heard about the Debtbox case, in the Debtbox case, they were a company that was being pursued by the SEC, but it was found that the SEC outright lied, and the judge went down on the SEC pretty hard. And following sanctions from the judge, several lawyers from the SEC have quit following these sanctions. So some heads rolling after some pretty brazen mistakes made by crypto lawyers at the SEC. So that's pretty interesting.
I wonder if they quit because they were under pressure to keep stretching the bounds of what they should be doing. They're just going to find worse people to take their place. I hope not.
I don't know. Maybe they were the ones that kind of, you got caught for lying and cheating and playing by the SEC rulebook. So we got to make your heads roll so that we don't have to face the more sanctions and more questions the next time we're pursuing someone. But that being said, we're here to provide you great news. So please like and subscribe. It makes a hell of a difference for us. And please share it with a friend and drop a comment. Let us know why you think these heads rolled at the SEC, or whether you think mainland China will get access to those Hong Kong ETFs. We'd love to hear what you think, especially if you got any insights.
Or you can just stay neutral like the Swiss, not saying anything. The Swiss are in the news. A group of Bitcoin advocates in Switzerland have launched a campaign to convince the Swiss National Bank to add Bitcoin to its balance sheet. So the Swiss have a form of direct democracy. You can put a referendum for the country to vote on if you get enough signatures for a direct vote. So the nonprofit organization 2B aims to hold a national referendum to amend Switzerland's constitution to require the central bank to hold Bitcoin. They're going to need 100,000 signatures, which is roughly 1.15% of the populace. They did try this back in 2021 and were not able to get it done. So we'll see if they can do it this time. Advocates argue this move would mark its independence from the European Central Bank and strengthen its well-known neutrality. Let's see if successful. They'd be the first country in the West to hold Bitcoin. Yeah, that's pretty much that story. Interesting. Love to see it. It looks like nothing overnight going to happen here.
No, it's not an overnight thing, but this is a big move because if Switzerland, who's generally seen as a conservative financial country, does adopt Bitcoin, that would be a pretty big, as a reserve. So as part of their reserve, that would be a pretty big signal to the rest of the West that they believe in Bitcoin and that Bitcoin does provide at least some form of strategic reserve. And that's especially after the fact that the IMF has said that Bitcoin has become a necessary financial tool for preserving wealth amid financial instability. So the IMF has previously been very anti crypto and anti Bitcoin, where so them acknowledging Bitcoin and calling it a necessary financial tool is pretty massive. A very big change in statement from the IMF, which is considered probably the biggest debt pusher and dollar pusher out there. This is pretty interesting.
Bullish. Yes, it's not too crazy. But just I had to do a double take when I saw this story. It's like, what? They said what? But it wasn't all positive. They did highlight concerns as well and caution against the potential risk associated with this widespread use of Bitcoin for cross-border flows. The lack of oversight and the anonymity provided by cryptocurrencies can complicate efforts of regulators to monitor and control and prevent illicit activities such as money laundering and other nasties that you couldn't do with cash.
Yeah, the report was called the Primer on Bitcoin Cross-Border Flows, so they were going to play both sides, but the fact that they at least acknowledged it as a necessary financial tool and talked about it in a wealth preservation kind of sense was pretty big news.
Yeah, it's a little notch in the case. That's a nice little stamp of approval. It's maybe it can't be stopped.
Yeah,
gotta make sure.
That's it. And what can't be stopped is us talking about macro. We
got a little bit different spin this week. We got a big earnings week, so that's a lot of tech earnings.
Yeah, this is a different week. Like every week's different, and this one's a big one with tech earnings coming out this week. Visa, Tesla, Google, Intel,
Meta, Microsoft, a lot of the big names. Yeah, Intel. Yeah, you said that one.
But yeah. And as well as some big dividend kings as well, AbbVie, stuff in the medical field, Verizon as well. So some pretty big companies all announcing earnings this week can have a bit of an impact on the direction of the market or make the market a little bit more unstable than normal as we react to these earning reports being released after hours and putting either a damper or a boost on the market based on some of these, especially tech companies' performances. That being said,
like most of the big ones are done by Thursday, so
yeah.
All the big tech.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are big days. There's a little bit of news coming out today on recording day and a little bit coming out on Friday, but not massive. Thursday is going to be a really big day. On top of the fact that we've got massive tech earnings, we also have GDP and PCE inflation numbers coming out on Thursday. So that will be pretty telling on what's coming. If PC ticks up and is hot like we've seen CPI and PPI and everything else be so far, then I don't think it spells good news for the next Fed meeting, which is next Thursday. So
yeah, we get a little taste of just how strong is the economy with GDP right before the Fed decision. It's considered a lock for no change, and we've been just steadily pushing this out further and further. It's 83% no change for June 12th meeting, 60% no change for July 31st, but still 65% think at least one rate cut by September's meeting, and more than 90% of the markets think we'll at least get one by the end of the year. But like I said, that just keeps moving out little by little.
Yeah, I remember everyone was thinking we would have had 2 cuts by now at the start of the year, so we're definitely seeing that shift continue.
All right, well, should we do the speed run?
Yeah, let's speed through it. We still have plenty of time, but let's look at them.
All right, we'll start off with Injective. Voting for Injective 3.0 tokenomics upgrade proposal ends on April 23rd. If approved, Injective inflation would drop significantly, so they could probably use all the help they can get. They seem to have been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, the hype from the Cosmos ecosystem and their launch of mainnet has faded. Decrease in inflation, definitely a good move. Looking at some AI tokens, FET, Ajax, and Ocean Protocol, so Fetch, Ocean Protocol, and Singularity will all merge into one of the biggest crypto projects in the next week. So this was previously reported as being in discussion, and this has now been confirmed. And it looks like it'll be happening within the next month. Big news there, with Friendtech also scheduled to launch on April 29th, so a week from today. There is rumor that the Friend token, will also likely go live at the same time.
And that's a big enough one where it could affect the whole social fi area of crypto. We also have ARB in the news on its way to become a stage 2 rollup with Bold live on testnet. Bold will enable permissionless validation on ARB chains, basically improving decentralization. Maybe a step forward for ARB.
Yeah. Tether also making some big news with their CEO Paolo Ardoino saying that Tether plans to launch a multi-chain, multi-asset tokenization platform. They are looking at making it fully non-custodial and multi-chain with super customizability. Tokenize anything from bonds, stocks, or funds to coffee shop rewards. So look at Tether really looking to expand out of just the stablecoin realm. That is pretty massive. And we've also heard that they are doing a massive restructuring like as a corporation. So it seems like they are trying to make sure they're on the up and just outside of just stablecoins.
Yeah, and they're continuing to push forward. This tweet was heavy on hype and low on details, but still interesting to see him continuing to push forward. We'll see what comes of Tether, the massive Tether.
Yeah, and then finally a little bit of airdrop news. Avail, their airdrop's live. There's 12 days left to claim. It is, if you use ZK Sync Era, ARB, Polygon ZK EVM, Optimism, go check it out. You might be, or Starknet, you might be entitled to some rewards. Definitely worth checking out. Free airdrop. So go check, try and claim. Remember, thank you guys all for watching, but we are not providing any financial advice. We are just here telling you to do your own research and helping provide that news in under 30 minutes. Please like and subscribe. It really makes a difference to us, and it'll help us reach more people and provide them with non-hype, true facts, and real educational content. We're also here just for educational and entertainment purposes only, but please stay tuned for our next episode. We really appreciate every single one of you watching.
Thanks, everybody.